Hello friends, welcome to my channel Sushant Chesswise. Today we are going to look at the next topic, that is position solving for improvement. In this topic, as we know, we try to do positions in such a way that we develop the skill of finding moves and understand the end mating pattern. So these are all black to play positions today. So when we look at the position, we try to follow all the steps. Initially we see the pieces, then we count attacks and support. So instantly we come to know that since we are seeing for black, first we will see black attacks the h2 pawn once. The white king has no place to move, that is the weakness. So rook on a2 attacks g2 and it is forming relation throughout the rank. Rook a3 is controlling the 6th rank. Instantly we note that the knight can go to g4 and bring one more attack on the weak h2 square. If we have a quick look at white pieces, we see the rooks and the bishop, they are quite passive, but the white queen and knight, they are very active, and white is threatening qg7 mate. So mate in 1 is threatened, so black has to make all his moves forced or else defend the square on g7 if there is no mate by force. As we have discussed before, whenever the king has no place to move, the check, which happens to be a sacrifice, can be very effective. So the first candidate move which comes to mind is queen h2 check. Let's get into that first. So queen h2 check, king h2, after which there are three checks: rook g2 check, rook h3 check, and knight g4 check. The check which is most forced is knight g4, to which there is only one move, king h1. So we enter into that first. So qh2 check, king h2, knight g4 check, king h1, and now here there are only two checks. One knight f2 check and other rook h3 check. After knight f2 also king has only one move, and after rook h3 also bishop has to take the rook. So whichever we find that we should enter into, we should see that first, but we have to check in both. After nf2 check, we see that king goes to h2, and again we have to repeat only by ng4. So now we go into the move rook h3 check first. So after the moves qh2, kh2, knight g4 check, kh1, rook h3 check, bishop has to take on h3, then we see knight on g4 and rook on a2. So rook can give check from h2 and it's a checkmate. Let's play the moves and see. qh2 check, king takes h2, knight g4 check, king has to go to h1, rook h3 check, bishop takes h3, and rook h2 checkmate. Let's look at the next position here. It is black to play. A quick look at the position and we see the material is equal over here. White has 3 and 3, 6 pawns. Black has 4 and 2, 6 pawns. Queen for queen, rook for rook, rook for rook, bishop for bishop, bishop for bishop, and knights for knights. When we compare the activity of pieces, we see that development wise white has 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. 5 developed pieces. Black has 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 developed pieces as well. Black's rook and knight are passive, white's bishop and the rook are still undeveloped. So when we look at this position quickly, we see that white is trying to attack the b7 and e8 squares, and black is putting pressure on the e1 square, which happens to be near the white king. The g4 bishop controls the important d1 square, which is near the king, and we see that the d6 bishop plays a major role. It is on the king's color. So immediately we will try to count attacks and support. So we see that on e1 square we have got 2 attacks and support is only 1. But the problem is like the bigger piece is ahead. So if we capture with the queen first, we have to give up the queen. Always remember that after queen e1, be1, re1 here, we are not giving up much. For the queen, if we get rook and bishop, it is only slightly less. It's not very less. Okay, so queen versus rook and bishop is not a very bad exchange, we can say. Of course, it will not work all the time. when we look at this position, we see that black is about to attack the king, the white king, which has less space. So black starts his calculation in the line queen e1, be1, re1 check. When after nd1 we see rook d1 mates, but after re1 check there is kd2, and when if we do bishop f4 check, king takes the rook on e1. So this variation just fails. We cannot mate in this line. Black immediately switches his attention to the move bishop f4, which is possible after queen e1, bishop e1, first bishop f4 check, and intermezzo. Intermezzo means an in-between move. Instead of making a normal capture, we play something else. So after bishop f4 check, there are two lines. One, bishop can come to d2, or the king can go to b1. After kb1, rook takes e1 check, knight has to come to d1 when rook d1 mates. And we look at the other line now, queen e1, bishop e1, bishop f4 check, bd2. When after re1 check, the bishop is pinned by the f4 bishop. So again nd1 first, when rook d1, it's supported by the bishop and it becomes checkmate. Let's play the moves and see. Queen e1 check, bishop e1, and the most useful move, bishop f4. The bishop has to interpose. When rook e1, knight d1, then rook d1 is checkmate. It's another move. kb1 here, rook e1 check, knight comes to d1, and rook d1 checkmates. Let's look at the next position here. We see that the material imbalance is there. White is up in material, queen versus queen, and two rooks versus just one bishop. So materially white is way ahead, but the problem is with his king. The king has come up the board and it is caught between the queen and the pawns over here. In the game, black recognizes the mating pattern which he uses with queen and bishop on the white king. So the candidate moves which come to mind quickly are queen c4 check, b5 check, and a6. We see that after the move a6, black threatens mate with b5, but white will start giving checks with the move queen f5, and we will see that black will never get the chance. In this position, black got the answer very quickly because he was using the methods of calculation. The experienced players have done a lot of positions at home, and the practice which they are doing at home, they are able to implement in their games. The intuition becomes stronger, and the move which they want to select at first usually is the right one. So the candidate move which comes in his mind first is b5. The other move which comes to mind is qc4. The move a6 is slow, threatening b5 mate because white is able to give checks with queen f5. So the black player entered in the line b5 first because the move is most forced. b5, kb5, qc4 check, only move king a5. When bishop d8 leads to a mate, white has the only move qb6, to which bb6 and ab6 both lead to mate. Let's play the moves and see. b5, kb5, qc4 check, king a5, only move, bishop d8, qb6 forced. When ab6 and bb6 both lead to checkmate. So this is how black found the answer in the game quickly. Let's have a look at the next position here. We see that the pieces are all same, but white has an extra pawn. So queen for queen, knight for knight, bishop for bishop. White has 4 pawns versus black's 3 pawns. So 1 pawn less. We see both kings are quite unsafe. It is black to play here. So black got the upper hand. This position looks little difficult. When we look at the candidate moves, we see that queen e2 check looks very strong because queen e2, kg3, queen f2, king g4, and the king will be brought out into the open. The problem here is after the move queen e2, king can go to g1. When we are unable to use queen f2 check because of the bishop on h4, and bishop e3 allows knight e3 when there is no forced mate in the position. The king keeps on moving to g1 and g2. So first candidate move is queen e2, second knight e1, and third knight f4 check. So whenever we look at these positions where the king safety is compromised, we should never leave any line because the piece is taken, it is getting traded or it is going for free. The role of this basic bishop is very important. It is eyeing the g1 square, which we will count as a weakness. Already the queen is attacking the square near the king, and this bishop can attack g1 through the e3 pawn. So the candidate move which black thought was nf4 check, and he got the move nf4 very quickly because he spotted that after nf4 e into f4, then qg1 is mate. So this is where the stronger players are able to spot the short variations very easily. They don't leave the line just by seeing that the piece will be taken. They see one more move ahead. So after nf4, the other lines are not that difficult. If we leave the variation after ef4, we will miss the whole thing totally. So nf4 check, then the king has choice between f2, g3 and h2. So we will have to look at each move in detail. So after nf4 check, king f2, queen g2 check. If king goes to g1, then qg2 mate, and if the king comes to g3, then also qg2 mate. The knight on f4 protects the queen. The king cannot take the knight because of the e5 pawn. So let's play the moves. Knight f4 check, king f2, queen e2 check, kg1, qg2 mates, king g3, then also qg2 mates. After the move knight f4 check, there is kg1 to, after the move knight f4 check, there is kg3, to which qg1 is directly a checkmate. So the main move happens to be knight f4, king h2, after which white can only prolong the thing after queen e2 check, bishop f2, bishop blocks the check, queen takes f2, king has to go to h1 and qg2 mate. So once we pick the variation that after ef4 qg1 is checkmate, then the rest is very easy. But this is exactly the type of tactics which many players miss in their games. During the game, either by the time they reach this position, they are low on time, or by the time they reach this position, they are exhausted because they have been calculating so far, or by the time they reach this position, we see they are not able to use the technique what we are learning to see check, capture, attack all the time. So practice of these positions will help us get mastery over the art of finding check, capture and attack and choosing the move properly. Let's look at the last position here. Again we see that white is a pawn. Apart from that, all the material is equal. A quick look at the position and it tells that the black pieces have already penetrated the white's territory. We see the queen, rook and the knight, they are very active. The bishop on f6 can attack the h2 square from e5 and the rook on d8 can reach the d1 square when required. So the candidate moves which come to mind are very easy to spot. There is rook f1 check, there is qg1 check, there is knight f2 check, and we see the weakness is h2. So black should consider the move qf4 also, which can be very strong. Many players in the game would definitely see rook into f1, and after rook f1 go into this line, black is winning and black should win the game. Well, very true. Practically speaking, during the game we can do such things, but nowadays we see the blitz games or the rapid games are more common, and if one's calculation is very accurate and one is able to force or see further, then finding the move queen f4 will not be very difficult. In the game black played queen f4. We see that after queen f4, to defend the mate on h2, there are only two ways. After queen f2, if bishop takes the knight, then queen into f1 checkmates. That is one. And the second move is g3. Other than that, there is nothing which can help to support h2, because qg1, then still queen h2 mates. The queen on g1 is pinned. So black had to see only these two lines after QF4. On the other hand, after QG1, we see that there is just QG1 or KG1 both. Knight F2 check, then the rook takes F2, and we are unable to mate him over there. So Queen F4, G3. To G3, of course, we can see the move very easily. Queen takes F3 check, and the F1 queen is pinned. So only move Rook G2, which extends the game a bit. Queen takes F1. And after Rook G1, QG1 mates. Everyone must have noted by now that after King G1 also Queen F1 and mates. Once we spot the move Queen F4 and wait there for some time, we realize that after G3 seeing things is not that difficult. So another skill that we see when we solve these positions, we find the move, and after finding the move, we should be able to wait in that position and look for opponent's moves. I hope you are finding these lessons useful. Do like, share and subscribe the channel. Thanks for your time.